Oi, mate. Welcome back to Vox Terra. Today, the other day, I was listening to National Public Radio's coverage of the cyclone that's devastated New Zealand. Cyclone Gabrielle, I believe, is the name. It was the February 13th coverage, to be precise, or so my notes say. And I heard terms like, by this reporter, I believe her name was Rachel Bajorno, if I remember correctly. And I tried to find you the citation, but I wasn't able to, with a lot of Google searching. And in that coverage, I heard terms like historic rainfalls, changing weather patterns, mudslides, flooding. But guess what? There was no reference to. You guessed it if you've watched some of my other shows, climate change. Well, this, of course, isn't just National Public Radio. It's pretty much all media outlets. And I just single out National Public Radio because that's an outlet I can stomach listening to. Of course, it's reminding me of the movie Don't Look Up. And it's also reminding me of this sci-fi novel I finished not too long ago, where the Earth or human civilization was just unraveling after extreme weather event after extreme weather event. But there was just no mention of climate change throughout the entire novel, to the point where I wonder, does the author not even get it? I don't know. Or was that his point? So we want to look at what is emphasized in the media and what's de-emphasized. Now, of course, if we're listening to Fox or Newsmax, we're going to be hearing a lot of arg-barg and a lot of inflammatory talk. Probably still going to have some climate change deniers on there on occasion, and definitely a lot of people poo-pooing a transition towards renewable energy. But them, like National Public Radio, are probably going to spend a lot of their news coverage on topics like bad Russia, bad China, bad Iran, just bad regime. Whoever the regime is, right? Regime, almost like a Pavlovian word they toss out there. They're going to emphasize foreign adversaries. They're also going to emphasize what a lot of people might call culture war narrative, meaning like a really one-sided take on some of these social disagreements about how society should be structured, where there might be some merit on both sides. Now, since it's important to me to pull in some conservatives and wake them up to the climate crisis we're facing here, I'll tell you right now, when I listen to National Public Radio on some of these liberal issues, social causes, it's totally one-sided. Like there's not two sides or no one ever disagreeing that, hey, maybe it's not a good idea, for example, to be administering hormone blockers and performing certain cosmetic surgeries on youth who are about to hit puberty in the name of gender identity. There's not two sides at all to that. Now, I guess if you're listening to Fox and Newsmax, they're going to have their own totally one-sided narrative as well, even more inflammatory, but wrapped in like inflammatory language. So watch out for these overgeneralizations. It's these overgeneralizations and leaving out counter narratives that really just bog people down in these culture wars, or just focusing on foreign adversaries, ignoring and missing the real power and influence of these powerful industries in our media and our society. And when it comes to climate change, we're talking petrochemicals, fossil fuels. Well, if you've watched like 7 of my shows by now, you probably know the climate change mechanisms that are being ignored, but let me just recap them in case you didn't, because we got to talk about them and put them on the table, and any reporter could. And to me, it's pretty easy science. Hotter atmosphere retains more moisture, meaning that rain's going to come down in harder, pounding, more intense events, or it's just going to greedily hold on to the rain longer, leading from super wet conditions to super dry conditions. That creates the whiplash effect you need for mudslides to start coming down. Sea level rise makes all the coastal areas more vulnerable to what's called storm surge. So now when those storms that might have in the past not flooded the whole area, they come along, they just push up that higher seawater into the communities or coastal areas more easily. Also something called saltwater intrusion. And then you got these changing weather patterns, because as the whole Earth heats up, the Arctic, or the poles, but the Arctic in particular, are heating up faster than the rest of the planet because of Arctic amplification or feedback loops I've taught you about before. And that's throwing off these weather patterns, these atmospheric and oceanic currents, changing weather patterns. Simple stuff. The Earth's hotter, and that's going to change all the weather. That could be just emphasized with each one of these extreme news weather events, but it's left in silence. Instead, focusing our people's sense of distress on culture war that really could be resolved if it was more of a culture disagreement, or foreign adversaries, and that's going to fuel that defense industry even further. So, hey, I hope you found this short take on the media coverage of the New Zealand cyclone interesting, helpful, informative. And if you did, please make sure you're subscribed to my channel. You click that notification bell. You're liking, you're commenting. Thank you for supporting a Patreon to my 2 Patreon supporters, Bella Grusi and Environmental Coffee House. And remember, this show's a heck of a lot of work. It'd be great to get a couple more patrons. And as always, and until next time, peace be with you.